Excellent. Okay, so it's lovely to be joined by Andy this afternoon. Andy, why don't you start off by just introducing yourself and telling us what you do at Open Doors?
Yeah, well, hi, as you already know, my name's Andy, and Andy Worthington. I'm the head of church relations at Open Doors. I've been part of the Open Doors team now for 7 years, and before that I was pastor of a church in Birmingham for 10 years. And but I've absolutely loved working alongside the persecuted church, standing with them, supporting them. And before I go any further as well, I want to thank you as a church at St Mildred's for your amazing generosity and for your ongoing prayer and support for our brothers and sisters around the world who share our faith but not our freedom. And I know if they were here and able to express their thanks to you, they really would, because it makes all the difference to them and helps them, enables them to stand and to keep going through the tough times. So thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Andy. And you've mentioned Open Doors, which is an organisation that we're so familiar with and pray regularly for. If you can tell us a bit more about what's been happening with the work that you're doing in the last couple of years, really, I suppose, with the world that we live in at the moment, post-COVID world.
Yeah, so as I'm sure many of you know, Open Doors was started by Brother Andrew 65 years ago. He wrote this book, God's Smuggler. If any of you have not read it, then we've got plenty of copies and we'll gladly send you one free of charge. So do let me know and we can send those to you. Yeah, it was still working with those Christians in the countries where they're facing persecution. We're currently working in over 60 countries where Christians face high levels of persecution. And at the moment, I don't know if you're aware, but there's 340 million Christians in our world today who live in areas where they face high or extreme levels of persecution. That's a huge number. To break it down a little bit, that's 1 in 8 Christians globally. And one of the things that we do is just to help the church in the UK and Ireland to stand with and pray for our persecuted family. And one of the ways that we do that is producing the World Watch List, which takes you through the top 50 countries in the world where it's most dangerous to live as a follower of Jesus. And again, if you'd like to order these booklets, we'd love to send you them. If you haven't got one, then please let me know. They're free and we'd love to send you one. It just tells you a little bit about each country, the source of persecution, what it's like for Christians living there today, and then 3 simple prayer points to help you pray for and stand with our brothers and sisters around the world. And in each of these countries, we support the local church. We help the church be the church in those countries. And as you said, Edna, with COVID and all kinds of other things that have happened over these last couple of years, it's just added another level of complexity for our brothers and sisters and made it really hard. In some countries, Christians are not able to access food and aid, and it's just been really tough. In fact, when they've gone to go and get food that's been distributed, because they're unable to work and unable to buy food, and when they go and get the food that's been distributed, they're told, "Oh, go back to your church, they will give it to you," knowing full well that the church hasn't got anything. So yeah, they really have appreciated the support that we've been able to help them with because of churches like yourselves that have been able to support and help Christians, particularly during these last couple of years. So yeah, thank you so much for that.
Thank you. And so I suppose just really expanding on that a bit more in terms of what has been the scale of your work in the last 2 years, and what differences and where have been the hot spots, if you can maybe give us a bit more information about that.
Yeah, so probably one of the countries that we've been actually focusing on this month actually is India. And India's definitely been a hot spot, as you know, it's been on the news a lot with the pandemic and everything as well. But the issue in India for Christians is that they're also trying to eradicate all other religions, basically, except for Hindu. And they're trying to eradicate all other religions by the end of the year, particularly in the north of India. And so Christians have found themselves facing lots of lies and propaganda that's been going out about them. In fact, some Christians have been, some people have been told that Christians are responsible for the pandemic. And so it's just caused anger and all kinds of things that have led for Christians to be persecuted, be violently attacked, some of them, and losing their homes, churches being burnt down, homes being burnt, people being killed. And so it's been a really tough time for the church in India right now. And alongside that, we've been hearing of church leaders that obviously they've not been able to meet, and so they've not been able to have the tithes that have been coming in, and so no money's come in, and so they're unable to support themselves and are unable to buy food for their families. In fact, we heard one of our partners on the ground tell us that they felt God tell them to go to another village to take some food to a pastor there. And it was a dangerous village, or dangerous place for them to go. And they questioned God about it several times. But in the end, they felt, well, if God says we should go, we have to go. And so they went at night time in the hope that they wouldn't be seen. And when they arrived at this pastor's house, they knocked on the door, and the pastor opened the door, and they told them why they were there and gave them the food. And the pastor just broke down in tears. And he said that we've been unable to eat now for several days. It's just too painful to watch, as you know, my family to starve to death, and we decided to end it all. At that moment, there's a knock at the door, and enough food for them to live for, to last for another month at least. And our partner on the ground said that he's going to go back every month to give them another food parcel for as long as they need it. And it's just stories like that just, there's lots of stories that I could tell, but just are just shown how in the nick of time, just at the right moments, God has made a way for people to get the food and the resources that they need in order to carry on, to keep going. And so it's just amazing to hear those stories of God's faithfulness and goodness, even, in the midst of really tough times for the church in India.
Yeah, gosh, thanks for sharing that. That's absolutely amazing story. And I'm sure there's likely to be so many more like this that you'll hear in time and time again, of God's faithfulness and goodness to his people, even in such difficult circumstances.
Yeah.
And so I suppose turning our attention to, your work and how we as a church can pray more, what are the things that you're looking from churches to help you with and to support you with?
Yeah, thank you, Edna. It's really great. We are looking for the church, obviously, to pray firstly, to whenever we meet persecuted Christians. Obviously, we've not been able to see them face to face for a while now, but online, whenever we speak to them, they say, please pray for us. It's the first thing they ask before anything else. So prayer is so important. Brother Andrew, who started at Open Doors, says our prayers go where we cannot. And prayers are effective. He wrote a book actually called Prayer is the Real Battle. And just really encourage you, even though sometimes it might feel like our prayers are just, just don't really count for much. I want to encourage you that prayer really does work, and our brothers and sisters testify to that time and time again. So prayer, the first thing. Secondly is through giving, which you've done as a church. So, you're such a generous giving church, and thank you for that. And obviously it's, we need finances in order to be able to support our brothers and sisters in these different countries. So that's fantastic too. But and thirdly, it's through action. There's different ways that you could do things that, recently we've been asking people to basically take a photo of themselves and put it on social media with the hashtag Stand for Truth, and also copy in the MP for Asia as well. We've lots of people, lots of Christians have been doing things like this. So we often ask, there's often different campaigns that we run that you can get involved in, and all that information is on our website at opendoorsuk.org. There's also, you can write letters to Christians and church leaders around the world to encourage them and to let them know that you are praying for them and standing with them. There's all kinds of fundraising things you can do as well. At the moment, we're the London Marathon, for example, is now being done remotely this year, and look, we've got about 100 places where people can sign up for the marathon and do it at your time. Well, some people are actually kind of walking and running and doing a bit of both. So there's lots of ways as a church and as individuals you can get involved in actively standing with and supporting persecuted church around the world. And really thank you for all that you're already doing, and encourage you to keep going.
Excellent, thank you. I think you've given us a great range of ideas there, Andy, for us to get busy with over the next few months in seeing how we can be practical as well as spiritual in our prayers to God for the ministry that you're doing there. And so really, I suppose it's anything else that you'd like to tell us about the work of Open Doors as we round up our time with you today?
Yeah, I mean, if I could, Edna, I'd love to share a little story of a man who I met just before lockdown, actually. His name's Bahir, and he's from Turkmenistan. And he grew up at a time when Turkmenistan used to be part of the former Soviet Union, and he found it really hard with the communism, growing up as a Muslim as he was. But he said one day an evangelist from Moscow came to his village and told him the gospel. And he basically followed him around all day as he went from one house to another, telling people about Jesus, which is completely illegal to do in Turkmenistan. But he said that he knew that this man was telling the truth. And at 3 o'clock in the morning, he got down on his knees and with tears running down his face, gave his life to Jesus. And he said the change in him was so dramatic that he knew that he had to do something to tell people about Jesus. And he was Christian number 7, as far as we know, in Turkmenistan. And he basically told his friends and family and everyone he could about Jesus, and many of them decided to follow Jesus too. He planted several churches in Turkmenistan, but his best friend said to him, Bahir, you need to stop telling people about Jesus or I'll report you to the police. And he knew that he meant it, and he knew he would. And but he said to his friend, he said, how can I stop telling people about Jesus when Jesus gave his life for me, when he's made it possible for me to know freedom, to know that one day I'm going to spend eternity with him in heaven? He said, how could I stop telling people the good news about Jesus? And his friend reported him. He ended up in prison where he was tortured and beaten every day for his faith. And he said that they put him in the electric chair 5 times. He said that they put nails in parts of his body. He said that one day an officer beat him so badly that he thought he was going to die. And he said the officer put his foot inside his mouth and was pushing his head against the concrete floor and said to him, Bahir, this mouth will never speak the name of Jesus again. And then he took his foot out of his mouth, and Bahir looked up at him and with a little bit of energy left in his body said to him, you can stop me talking about Jesus, but you can never change what Jesus has done in my heart. And with that, 2 weeks later, Bahir was released from prison. I don't know why. I think they just gave up on him. They didn't know what else they could do. And he sought refuge in another country, where he was able to work with Sat7, which is a TV broadcasting company which broadcasts across the Muslim world, across the Middle East and many Arab and speaking countries. And he said that he was able every day now to tell people the good news of Jesus. And he said one day his best friend, who reported him to the police and was there every time he was being tortured, phoned him up and said to him, Bahir, can I come and see you? And he said, yeah, of course you can. He said, it's Christmas coming up. Why not come and spend Christmas with me and my family? I mean, talk about forgiveness. And he spent Christmas with his family. And he said to Bahir, he said, Bahir, my life has fallen apart. He said, I became ill and I couldn't work. And so I lost my job. He said, I became an alcoholic. My wife and family left me. He said, my life has fallen apart. He said, the difference between you and me is that when you needed your God, he was there for you. But when I needed my God, he wasn't there. Will you introduce me to your God? And Bahir had the privilege of leading his friend to faith in Jesus. And I said to Bahir, that's just an incredible story. I said, would you mind if I tell your story to churches and people across the UK and Ireland? And he said, yeah, of course you can. But he said, will you make me a promise? And I said, okay, what's the promise? He said, every time you tell my story, will you tell them this? He said, if I had to go through all that pain and suffering again, I would. And then he said, because Jesus is worth it. Jesus is worth it. And friends, that's what I want to leave you with today. Jesus is worth following. He's worth giving everything for. Don't ever give up following Jesus.
No. Oh, that is so powerful. Thank you for sharing that, Andy. That is such a powerful story.
Oh, well, there's lots of stories. We're rich with them, but it's, Bahir represents just one in millions of people around the world who have similar stories, but also those that are still, struggling. And so, yeah, I hope that encourages you, though, to continue in your prayer and support for our brothers and sisters around the world. Thank you for the opportunity, Edna.
Thank you.